What's up everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for another 4-in-1 album review. That's right, 4 albums in one video. I'm cranking out the reviews because I was sick last week and because you guys really seem to enjoy that format whenever I did it a couple of weeks ago. Caught up on some records, some stuff that I didn't have time to get to, and while I don't plan on making this a regular series or a recurring format, maybe occasionally I will try to do that. It's not normally going to be like every other week or anything like that, though I do have several other album reviews on the way. So today on this 4-in-1... Why is Hannah calling me? Hey babe, what's up?
Babe, did you talk about Symbol?
I mean, I was going to, but I haven't had a chance yet.
I bet you probably actually weren't going to talk about it, but babe, you're about to hit 5,000. You got to remind them one more time. Don't forget.
You didn't even give me the chance to. I was planning on it, but yeah, I am almost at 5,000 followers over on Symbol.
I've already hit my goal, so I think it's time for you to catch up. You know, I think they want those vinyl records, so
Hannah, well, first of all, I'm not even going to go into detail on how many more followers they had me getting, but that's besides the point, guys. I am doing a contest with Symbol. I'm over 4,900 followers on Symbol, almost to 5K. Can we please get to 5,000 so I can give you guys a pair of Sony MDR headphones, a Symbol sweatshirt, and 2 vinyl records, the 1975's last album or else Green Day's American Idiot. All you have to do is download the app, top link in the description down below, and be following me at ARTV. That's it. That's all you have to do and you're entered to win the contest. Wait, where was I? Oh yeah, 4 albums, 1 video. Which 4 am I covering today? Well, I've got rapper Drake with his More Life playlist. Not an album apparently, but a new playlist featuring lots more of Drake's music because God knows he was not overexposed enough after Views, and if you're reading this, it's too late. Then we also have Zara Larsson, the Swedish pop star that's been seeing some success in the United States with her album So Good, the indie rock band Hippo Campus, and they've been catching a lot of buzz for Landmark, and I can totally see why. That one definitely surprised me. And last but not least, we also have the alternative rock veteran Spoon. Been at it since the 90s, and they've gone in more of an electronic and rock and pop and alternative infused direction this time around, really mixing things up in the best way possible while still staying Spoon. This one is called Hot Thoughts. So without further ado, I will be playing you guys a little clip before we get to each new album. Leave a like on the video. Let me know your thoughts on any of these albums. There's going to be information down below in the description, like ratings and where to listen to the album and all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, and here we go with Hippo Campus first.
The northern girls, they play the part with painted face that works so hard. I swear to God I felt it then.
Hippo Campus have definitely been making some waves in the indie and alternative community for a while now. I believe it was like 2014 or 2015 whenever they really started to catch some attention from music critics, music fans, and they finally got their debut album Landmark out there in the world. And I have to say that it's pretty enjoyable. They do a great job of creating an atmosphere on a lot of these tracks, just a nice casual blend of more in-your-face alternative and then that atmosphere that they really build up with these tracks. I could easily see this being played at like a coffee shop, that being the soundtrack, and for just a smooth spring or even summer day. It just kind of follows you around and lingers like a dog that you're taking on a walk, and it's not an unwelcome presence whatsoever. In fact, it's enjoyable the majority of the time. It's just sometimes they do the same things over and over again, and you do get a little bit tired of it, and you're like, maybe I could listen to something else, or maybe they're getting too much of their influences mixed up with their own music, and that's when Landmark does lose its footing. Fortunately, it doesn't do that all that often, and there are some great tunes here. Epitaph is a big one that really stood out to me early on. I love that simple guitar tone. It definitely builds up kind of a brooding feel. It's dark, but at the same time almost hopeful, even though it is ominous, and they do a really nice job of counterbalancing that with some brighter moments as well. Western Kids is easily going down as one of my favorite songs of the year so far. Holy hell, that one is a monumental tune. I think this is definitely showcasing exactly what Hippo Campus can do whenever they flex their talents a little bit. And then of course Way It Goes, which was released as a single. It bleeds perfectly out of that intro track, Sun Veins, into this one. Just a bright, smooth one that I really have to commend on the vocals. I like the guitar and the kind of peppy drum on it, even though it's kind of nonchalant, basically just kind of shrugging off everything that happens because that's the way it goes. I think it still, at the end of the day, kind of wears a smile. It's a very, very cool track, and I'm really enjoying the overall vibe of moments like that, and even the ones that transition a bit more into other styles, like poems. I love that. There's a line on there about being pretentious that I come back to time and time again just to hear that one line. In terms of slower stuff, I think Simple Season and Monsoon are definitely worth a listen, if not repeated listens at that. They definitely suit a night drive. I was playing it the other night on a long drive home from Pittsburgh, and it fit it perfectly. I highly recommend listening to the Hippo Campus debut album Landmark for yourself. I think it's worth checking out, and while, like I said, it does get caught up in other styles and maybe mimicking other artists at times, they do have a distinct sound that comes through, and I can't wait to see how they channel that further in the future. For me, I'm gonna go with a 3.5 for Landmark.
All the kicks from the sticks, all the hits that we took, all the stitches we got, all our brains so good. Someday I'm gonna get where you are.
This next one is a great one, ladies and gentlemen. Hot Thoughts by the rock band Spoon. And I'll freely and openly admit that I don't know all of Spoon's material. I can't compare it to everything. In fact, I've only heard like 3 of their records, at least in full. But I can appreciate them, and I can just see their longevity. And I know that they're out there making stuff, and I do want to check out more. It's just, there's so much music, so little time. I'm so glad I sat down and listened to this one, though. I saw that a couple of my friends had reviewed it, and I did want to check it out for myself. So I didn't watch any of their reviews, and going into this I really didn't have any expectations because I had heard none of the singles, and then the first song, the title track Hot Thoughts, came on and it blew me away. This song is easily in my top 10 for the year so far. I know I just said that about Western Kids by Hippo Campus, but seriously, this is another one right here. This song is so unique. I love the vocal palette that he expresses on this track, and just the way the guitars are so light and airy, fluffy in places, then boom, it lays down that uber catchy feeling that I just can't help but lose myself to. And the way that rotates throughout the song, hot thoughts all in my mind all of the time. It's irresistible. This song is so charming, and that charm doesn't wear off as the album goes on. Sure, there's some kind of zany and weird out there instrumentals that kind of do a deep dive into darker territory, like Pink Up. It has a long instrumental that opens it up, kind of brooding, a weird feel for Spoon in places, but at the same time, it does feel like them because they've always had an edge to them. Then there's other moments that remind me of stuff like older vintage rock, maybe even the Beatles in places in terms of like the vocal styles, like I Ain't the One. I think that's a fantastic moment. Tear It Down as well. Do I have to talk you into it? Just the weird guitars and even the drum pattern on that one with some of the extra outside sounds. I think that has to be one of my absolute favorites. Can I Sit Next to You isn't afraid to get weird either, and that's why I vibe with this so heavily. They just have a movement going on here with their sound. They've really achieved and nailed something. Not saying that They Want My Soul, their last record, wasn't good, because that was actually my introduction to them. There's great songs on there that I still come back to, but with Hot Thoughts as a record, just listening to some of these songs that stand out so much, I think this one is going to be one that I gravitate to even more over time. I have to give praise to Whisper, I'll Listen to Hear It as well. The second song on Hot Thoughts, it's one that kind of sees them taking on a dark synthwave type stuff, synth pop, synth rock, and it is awesome. It builds up with those knocking synths and the airy vocals, and then finally it culminates into something bigger, and it just hits and it works. charts. I wouldn't have thought that Spoon would have pulled off something like this or gone in maybe different directions like this, but within one album they make so many different sounds work well together. There's a few complaints I have on this record. I do feel like it drags in places. Pink Up is definitely one of my least favorites. I could do without the instrumental closer Us. It's 5 minutes long. It feels a bit bloated, maybe a little bit unnecessary. I know some people are loving it, but me personally, I'm not drawn to it whatsoever just because it feels like it loops, doesn't really go anywhere, and I do miss the vocals on the track, especially coming out of Shotgun, which was fucking fun. I love that. You're the one that brought a shotgun. I sit there strumming along to that one in my car all the time. I probably should have both hands on the wheel, but it's so much fun. It's hard to resist, and coming into that, into Us, I get that there's a nice transition there at the end, but it doesn't really make sense as a closer to me. That's okay though, there's like 6 songs on here that I just love and adore and I'm gonna keep coming back to. So for me personally, for the new Spoon record, I have to give this one a strong 4 out of 5.
Scary whenever I close my eyes at night, waking up to public statements about my private life. I can never sleep till morning on all my quiet nights, but you can rest assured that my mind is right.
Drake's been hanging out in the UK, and that is very, very obvious. He's got rappers like Giggs and Skepta on here, and I do enjoy moments like their features, and the Skepta interlude is fucking awesome, and there's some great songs on here. There's just only a few of them though. It's very much hidden, and I am very much tired of Drake at this point. It's just Drake syndrome. He's releasing so much stuff. He's pumping out so much music into the world. It's so clear that he doesn't have fresh ideas. The lyrical content on here is so uninspired, and it's just like, how many times can I listen to you sing about your side girl or your ex girl, or you're caught up in your feels, or you're conflicted, or else you're taking down one of your enemies, or whatever it is. And no matter how many features come through on here, it all just feels a bit empty and hollow. Views did not set well with time. I mean, there were a handful of songs on there that I really did vibe with in the continuing months, but a year later almost, I don't have anything that I have the desire to come back to. And with More Life, I could maybe see the closing track, Do Not Disturb, being something that I save in a playlist and come back to from time to time, but for the most part, I just don't really vibe with this album all that much. I will admire a few moments for them daring to be different. Passion Fruit was cool. I didn't care for the long extended intro on it, but it actually did build into something that I quite enjoyed. There were some cool samples here and there on the record, but overall the production felt kind of rushed, honestly, or else kind of stale in places. The flows are the same, or else very weird. Like a lot of people have been saying, Drake, what the fuck are you trying to pull off by rapping with a Cockney accent? Just because you go to the UK doesn't mean that you start talking like them. That would be like me going to Australia and automatically being like, well, hello, mate, I'm at your airport, so I guess I'm an Australian now. Teenage Fever was a pretty dope song. Don't ask me why I'm connecting with that one randomly out of everything in the track listing. There were some other moments that I could just easily breeze over, like Blim, Portland, featuring Quavo and Travis Scott, which I found to be boring as hell. Sacrifices, holy god, every single flow on that. 2 Chainz, Young Thug, and especially Drake bored me to tears. Bored me to fucking tears! This song is so boring. It's like not like blatantly god awful, but it is so boring. The way that Drake raps on this track, it sounds like somebody has a gun to his head and he's trying to signal for help. It's so dull. It's like a hollow body form of himself. He's a shell of himself on this one, and I cannot listen to it probably ever again. I don't like this song at all. I never cared for Fake Love. The Kanye West feature feels a little bit too aggressive, especially for what Drake was doing on this project. We finally get to Do Not Disturb, and like I said, I enjoy that one, but overall as a project, More Life, nah. Alright, let's put a rating on More Life. I don't think it has a high replay factor. I don't think there's a lot of good songs here. There's some moments that I could see what he was wanting to do. I don't think he totally pulled it off, but I'm gonna give More Life a 2.5.
I live my day as if it was the last. Live my day as if there was no past. Doing it all night, all summer. Doing it the way I wanna. Yeah, I'ma dance my heart out till the dawn, but I won't be done when morning comes. Doing it all night, all summer.
That leaves only one more album to talk about, and that is Zara Larsson, the Swedish pop singer. She came through with So Good. This is her second album, and while I did not hear her first one, my introduction to her was probably not the best. So this is a little apology. I'm sorry, Miss Larsson. I ain't my fault. That's not my song, that's not my cup of tea whatsoever, but digging into your album, I actually found enjoyment here. There's actually some guitars sprinkled out throughout the production. I think the songs are catchy. The producers did a good job of matching her voice with some good beats, and while I don't vibe with all the lyrics, in fact, they're quite cheesy in places, I can ignore them because I'm having a pretty good time listening to So Good. It opens up with What They Say, and that is one that definitely takes all of the cheese out. It's just like we get it all out first. Let's get that out of the way. It's fine. It's an okay song. It's trying to be inspirational. Zara Larsson's only 19. I get it. The song is aimed at a different demographic. Not for me, but the instrumental is actually okay on it, so I can vibe with that. I kind of move around to that song, and then we actually get going with moments like Lush Life, I Would Like, which is definitely over the top sexual, but at the same time, very much fun. I cannot resist the beat on that one. So Good, featuring Ty Dolla $ign, Too Good For Me. The list goes on. It keeps going, and these songs are growing on me. There's a few songs that don't work, sure, and I'm gonna talk about those briefly. The first of those would be Ain't My Fault, like I already talked about before. I briefly touched on that in my worst songs of the year honorable mentions for 2016. And I don't think it's totally awful. It was enough to merit an honorable mention, or else a dishonorable mention, I suppose I should say, for that video. And I think this song is trying to be something that she's really not. It's like a record label saying, hey, we want you to have an edge, and we want you to be like a little bit more of a bad girl, and maybe almost rap a little bit over this glossy electronic beat. It's just pulsating, and it doesn't really work for her whatsoever. One of her worst colors that she shows on this record, along with Sundown featuring WizKid. I think that one in particular really stands out in terms of the cluttered production, trying to match that up with the vocals. The guest on it does not sound good whatsoever, and this song does actually achieve something around the 2.5 minute mark. It changes things up and does get a little bit more interesting because it's just like out of nowhere. We're going to change up the beat, make it a little bit more fast, a little bit more stylish and flashy, and I like that. I like the end of the song, but I don't want to have to skip 2.5 minutes in every time just to listen to it, so I probably won't. There's some kind of weird and almost awkward ballads towards the end. I don't like Funeral. It just kind of beats the dead horse of saying like, oh, let's pronounce this dead, let's call our love dead, it's a funeral, and then right after that we get I Can't Fall in Love Without You, which sends very conflicting messages. At the beginning, you're just like, oh, another stale piano ballad, okay, it's fine, it's harmless, and then as she gets to the second verse, she's talking about more petty things. She starts it off talking about like, oh, I don't care about who you fuck, or all these other things, and she starts to sound very kind of jealous, petty, and it definitely shows her age, and it's just like, are we gonna look back at this song in a few years and like that, or maybe we're gonna wish that we said something else? And the song doesn't match. It's just like the tone is very weird. It tries to set this very somber tone, and as the song progresses, its ideology and just the messages that it sends actually just kind of gets twisted. I really like Zara Larsson's voice. Honestly, some of my favorite moments here are Don't Let Me Be Yours, Only You. A great vibe of the instrumental on that one, just peppy. I like the synthesizer electronic type feel that it gives, but it's not too over the top, and it matches her voice, really allows that to shine. And then Never Forget You, which was a massive single. I had somehow never heard that song. I've kind of been staying away from the pop charts in the past year or so, but that's one that blew my expectations. I figured it would just be kind of some grabby single that tried to get stuck in your head, and while it does, it doesn't do so in an unattractive way. Overall, for me, on So Good by Zara Larsson, I'm gonna have to give this a 3.5, a light 3.5, because I feel like that's what it deserves. It's a pretty good pop album, not the best thing out there, but it definitely is really just exceeding expectations and beating its peers, a lot of my peers at least in the pop game, by a landslide. I'm looking at you, Iggy Azalea. If you guys have heard any of these albums, let me know your thoughts on them in the comment section down below. Like I said, I am working on a couple of other album reviews in the coming week or so, and I'm working on another episode of Ranked. Let me know other albums that you would like to see me tackle. Maybe leave questions for an episode of the Dear John Q&A. Other than that, yeah, be sure to drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. You can check out my Patreon right over here in the corner if you'd like to help me out, keep the videos coming on a monthly basis, and you can click right over here for a couple of recent videos that I did that I think you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.